Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are so thrilled to have back on the program. We can't get these guys on enough. Joe Sigurdson, he is the Chief Success Officer for Boys to Men Mentoring. Joe, always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Drew.
Good. I'm going to let you introduce your guest.
Well, so we've got Moses Farrow with us this morning, Drew, and Moses has been with us for a year, and Moses is a family therapist and counselor, and is a facilitator, and is running, I don't know, how many circles a week are you running, Moses?
About 9 or 10.
9 or 10 circles a week, and he's very talented, very a great addition to the team, and he's absolutely magical on our weekends as well. So, you know, we're very fortunate to have him, and thanks for jumping in last minute like this, Moses. Appreciate you.
Yeah, Moses now is going to be an assistant producer for Cloudcast Media. He helped fix us out a little bit of a chip issue over here. And joining us is Neville Villamoria. And Neville is a senior VP at Mission Fed Credit Union. They're the sponsor of the Spotlight on the Community Show, and I'm just so honored to call Neville a colleague and friend for 20 plus years, and it's really cool when he gets to co-host, and he loves co-hosting when Boys to Men is on. How are you doing there, Neville?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We'll start with you on this, Joe. Maybe just a little bit of the mission of Boys to Men.
Yeah. So our mission is to empower boys to live their dreams, and we do that in a comprehensive program and a long-term approach to transformation and change that starts with our in-school group mentoring circles, where we have teams of mentors that show up every week into the schools and create a safe and sacred space for the boys to be honest and authentic and vulnerable about what's going on in their lives, and they step into that space because the men model that. The men share about what happened to us and how we felt and the choices we made and the price we paid, and then so the boys hear that and they step into that space and start sharing their stories, and then we get the truth on the table and they start making meaningful choices from a very honest and authentic place. This is all about kind of dropping the con game and getting real about where we are and where we want to be and what do we got to do to get there. So we you show up every week and you start getting rid of your secrets and making new choices and getting the support and accountability from a caring community of men. These guys start feeling better about themselves, and when they feel better, they do better. And, we don't do any tutoring, but we track the data, and we know their grades come up, their attendance comes up. But the biggest thing we see is their discipline issues virtually, fall off the charts. They just stop acting out. And then we support that experience with one of our Adventure Mountain weekends, when a kid's done a lot of his groundwork in the circles and identified some blocks, beliefs, issues. We take them up to our ranch and we do a 3-day Adventure Mountain weekend that's framed as a rites of passage. And on that weekend, they create a roadmap to the man they want to be. And they answer 2 very key questions. What do you need to take responsibility for? Or who do you need to forgive? And if they take responsibility for their part and how they're co-creating their reality, and they can find some grace and forgiveness for the people that have wronged them, they're going to make room in their lives for a bunch of new and wonderful things. And then off that weekend, then we take their choices and we start integrating what they commit to back in the circles. And so, they're just following their own advice, and we're just there to kind of set up some bumper guards and give them the support, accountability, and praise and love for moving themselves into a direction where they become the men they want to be.
Yeah, Neville, it's amazing what you can do with a little peace and love and compassion and empathy, huh?
Peace, love, and understanding.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, we know there's some real results, with that. So, as a facilitator, what is your role, Moses?
My role is to facilitate groups in schools and also for the events that we hold, as well as the Adventure Mountain Weekend. My role, I'm going to expand on this a little bit more based on what Joe and Neville. I actually appreciate your point about understanding, because I'd say one of the most important things that we do as facilitators is to listen, to understand. And it's a powerful thing when you feel understood, when you feel heard and seen. And so that's something that we often tell these boys, is that you are heard and seen, and you're accepted just as you are. And you're invited into a space, what we call circles. And you're invited into a space in which you tell your truth, you tell your story. And you're able to then take that and say, well, how can I do better? What kind of man do I want to become? And as a holding space, as facilitators, we help them to realize that dream, as Joe said.
Right. So, Joe, how many students and what are the age groups you work with?
Yeah, so currently I think we're pushing on 1,000. We just added 6 more schools for the spring semester. We're in 40 schools in 10 school districts. And what was the question?
How many? You have 1,000 for the school year?
Close to 1,000 kids are getting weekly mentoring. Yeah.
Right. And what are the age groups? Is it?
Oh yeah, age groups. Yeah, middle school and high school. Okay. This transition from boy to man. So we really are focused on the middle schools because these 13, 14-year-old guys, they're still malleable.
Right.
They still they care. They want to be good. And so if we can, wake them up to the fact that they have some power. They have a lot of power, and they have a voice in the course of their lives, and the choices they make are going to determine that. And if we can empower that voice for them, and then validate, and then they get to see the results. They actually get to physically and experientially recognize, I do have a choice here. I do have some power here. I can, open my mouth and ask for what I want, or make a new choice and change my life in another direction. Yeah. So,
right. And how do you identify you said 1,000 students, you were in 40 schools, 10 school districts. You just added 6 more for the spring semester. How do they come to you? How are they identified? Is it counselors at the school? Is it parents? Is it community groups?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's mostly word of mouth. We get into a school. This is how it all began. We started in one school, and that administrator was so thrilled that by the end of that first school year, we were in 3 schools, and then the following year we were in 5, and we were in 5 schools in the La Mesa Spring Valley School District before the board of directors or the school board.
School board, yeah.
This recognized who is Boys to Men and how did they get into 5 of our schools? And then we went and did a presentation to them to tell them who we are and how we got there. And we had the support and the advocacy of the counselors and these 5 principals that say, hey, these guys are the real deal. This is exactly what this school needs. And then they approved us. And then it was almost like once one school district approved it, it gave all the other school districts permission. And so we went from Spring Valley, La Mesa Spring Valley into Cajon Valley, and from Cajon Valley into San Diego Unified, and from San Diego, and it's just been, the schools come to us and say, we'd like to bring Boys to Men in, and then we figure out a way to get in there.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. We're chatting with Joe Sigurdson. He is the Chief Success Officer for Boys to Men Mentoring, joined by Moses Farrow. He's the facilitator for the organization. I'm Drew Schlosberg. As you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're on our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, this beautiful Mission Fed studio here in Scripps Ranch, and Mission Fed for more than 6 decades. This has been doing just amazing, great work for us folk who live in San Diego County, joined by my longtime colleague, the Senior VP at Mission Fed Credit Union, Neville Villamoria. Neville, I know this organization means a lot to you. Why?
Well, as we heard, with this, not everybody has the same opportunity, and those furthest from opportunity deserve to have some modeling and mentorship. That's how we learn. If you look at what Boys to Men is doing, they're creating safe, brave, arguably sacred space where boys can get real. To Joe's point, I actually, coincidentally was reading an article about people lying to their therapists on the way this morning because we don't get real, and we do it for a lot of reasons. We want to be a pleaser. We don't want to be judged. We don't want the blame and shame. So it's a term of art to actually create an environment where people are going to be trusting and be honest. And we know, if there's a theory around transactional analysis. If I can't get the warm and fuzzies, I'll settle for the cold and pricklies. But by golly, I'm going to be heard, and I'm going to get, you're going to see me. So how can we help young folks navigate that conundrum and choose the warm and fuzzies and making good choices and being accountable? You hear this vested through the wisdom traditions. The Hawaiian tradition of ho'opono talks about, I'm sorry. This is when they were saying, what do I need to apologize for? Please forgive me, taking accountability. I love you, and thank you. And that concept that is old is as relevant today as any other time. So that's why I love this organization. They're doing important work for young people that really need it.
Yeah, and those 4 phrases you just said will be absolutely real in 2024. 3024, if there was a 3024, I'll be guardedly optimistic there is, and 5024 just gets to the human nature of all of us when you do that. So, Joe, you are now at a school. Is there a limit of how many folks you can facilitate during the school year?
Well, yeah, we're maxed out, right, Moses?
I mean, I'd like to jump in here and give you the kind of like on the ground,
please,
experience where it's been really neat over this last year that I've been with Boys to Men, that I've been in one group per school, and now we're expanding into multiple groups in one school. And when we arrive, when we're there, we have a presence. We have a presence with the staff. We have a presence with our point of contact person and the boys and the students. And so we have heads turning when we arrive. And they're like, Boys to Men, what's that? And then we have friends of friends saying, what's that group? We want to be part of it. We want to be there with our friends. So we say, yes, of course, come on in. It has that kind of ripple effect that we were talking about, before we came on here. And when it comes to the lasting effect, we have boys that turn into journeymen. And we have one journeyman saying, this has been so impactful for me that I want to bring this to my high school.
Yeah, and so a journeyman is a boy that has sat in the circles and then comes up and does his Adventure Mountain weekend and goes through his rites of passage and becomes an initiated boy, and he's marked with one of these. I'm holding up a talisman,
right?
That gives him new status, a new identity in the circle as an initiated boy in the Boys to Men program. And the journeymen are taking a lot of initiative in the schools to help us attract more guys, and because it's cool. I was telling you, when we were talking earlier, I had a donor ask, what? How do you keep the guys engaged? How do you keep them? Coming back? And I go, we're cool, and these guys, all they need is permission. They're dying to get rid of this stuff. They want to talk about this stuff. They want to unburden their souls, and when they do that, and they're being honored for their courage and validated for their feelings, it's a good feeling for a young man to have the praise of the elders. It's just something that's missing in our culture.
It's empowering.
Yeah.
Going back to
exactly
to the mission, it's empowering them, and they feel empowered, and they're stepping into what we like to call servant leadership. So they're building their skills in taking initiative and becoming leaders in their own communities.
No, I think that's great. We come back from break. I want to talk about the impact. Obviously, you've been doing this for 27 years. That's a lot of people that you have touched. Do you have metrics behind it? And because of this, we have reduced, I'm making up numbers here, delinquency by X. People have now, our absenteeism has fallen by 95%. These kids have just absolutely killed it by doing X, Y, and Z. We always want to look at the impact on that, the vision for the future. And then what can folks like Cloudcast Media and Mission Fed do to support your efforts? What can we do to do that? So think about that. We come back from break with Joe Sigurdson. He is the Chief of Success Officer for Boys to Men Mentoring, joined by his colleague, Moses Farrow. He is a facilitator. I'm joined by my friend and longtime colleague, Neville Villamoria, Senior VP at Mission Fed Credit Union. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We're now in our 18th year, the longest running community podcast in the nation, brought to you by Mission Fed, doing wonderful things for more than 6 decades. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are returning with our good friends from the Boys to Men Mentoring Network. Joe Sigurdson, Chief Success Officer for the organization, joined by a facilitator for Boys to Men, Moses Farrow. I'm joined by my guest co-host, Neville Villamoria, from Mission Fed Credit Union. And Joe, we were just talking about, before a break, what is the impact? You've been doing this for 27 years. Just in this school year, you said you're chatting with 1,000 students or something to that effect in 40 schools in 10 districts. That is a big number over 27 years. What's been the impact?
Well, what we're doing is we are increasing the boys' emotional intelligence, their EQ. Emotional quotient, right? And there's been lots of studies done that young men, young women with high EQs, are better team players. They are looking out for a bigger picture. They're better collaborators, and they're more successful in life. There's a lot of really brilliant people that are angry and isolated and, selling cigarettes at 7-Eleven, but with a high EQ, there's more opportunities because you're able to integrate and get along and address conflict in a healthy way and that kind of stuff. So what we're measuring is the boys' EQ, their emotional quotient, and we've got a couple of assessment tools that we're using. One is a survey that we give to the boys when they enter the program, and then one that we'll do at the end of the year that measures. If they're feeling powerful or positive or motivated, and then we also have we use another assessment tool on the weekends called the Baron EQ, which is a standardized EQ assessment tool, and it shows the growth of the boys over the course of the weekend to where they feel more empowered and more positive about themselves and more connected to their feelings and trusting and all those stuff. So what we're creating is a more wholesome, holistic child that has an emotional toolbox to navigate life with. And if we can give that to them in the 8th grade before they go into high school, they're going to have an easier time because, that is a huge transition for a young man, And Moses, I know you want to say something here, so I'm going to stop talking and let Moses share about what he's seen in this transition from boy to man.
We're that connected here.
Yeah, right, go.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
In terms of the impact, I appreciate that Joe is talking about it's a multi-generational impact. That we are capturing boys of middle schools and high schools at these transitional times in their lives, where they're highly impressionable. We do a pre and post survey in terms of measuring. Okay, how are you as a person? How well supported are you? What kind of behaviors or challenges are you facing? And what level of hope do you have for yourself and for your friends? So with these surveys, we're able to capture on multiple levels how they feel about themselves and the world that they're growing up in. So it's really neat to see that we're capturing them in the beginning of the school year. And then, as Joe said, we survey them again, and we see just incredible increases in their self-worth, in their relationships, in their feeling of support and receiving support, and their feeling that they can have a positive impact on their community.
Yeah, and we all know there's Neville and I talk about this all the time when he's on the show, and it's not just that person you're helping; it's all the tentacles of that person.
Right,
it's the sibling, the aunts, the uncles, the pets, maybe.
Yeah,
and that aspect of it,
and the mentors, Drew.
Yeah.
The symbiotic healing that the mentors get by being a part of a young man's success. By being the asset that maybe they needed. And being able to provide that for that young man and feeling the wholeness in themselves as a result, it's pretty powerful medicine, buddy.
Yeah. Neville's comments.
Well, we think about we're living in a very complex world, both externally and internally. So navigating that world requires a new toolkit. Whether you call it social emotional learning, EQ, whole person. The reality is that we've got to address the modern circumstances with modern tools and an infant intervention. Easy for me to say. So what we're hearing here is the aspiration to ask, what would I want to give my 12-year-old self? Mm-hmm. And that ability to then recognize the experience that we have now and be able to provide that prophylactically to those that are coming along makes it a generative healing, makes kind of what you were saying, making healthy choices cool again. Mm-hmm. So how, if we could foster that kind of a culture and environment, I think that's a pretty powerful.
Well, it really is. Again, we're chatting with Joe Sigurdson, Chief of Success Officer for Boys to Men Mentoring, joined by his colleague Moses Farrow. He's a facilitator. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union with my colleague Neville Villamoria. Senior VP at Mission Fed on this. What are the costs to the schools to bring in Boys to Men mentoring?
Yeah, so what it costs us is about $25,000 per school per year.
Okay,
and like what Moses was alluding to, is that as we attract more boys, the more boys hear about this and then they want to become a part of. Well, when that group gets up over like 15, it becomes kind of unmanageable. And when you only got an hour, so when we like hit 20, we will split the circles and we'll run 2 groups. Okay,
right.
So that's how we're dealing with the growth. So we are in 40 schools, but we're probably running 50 circles a week, right?
Right.
The cost is $25,000 per school per year.
Right.
We are charging the schools $5,000, and we're writing grants, and we're doing our fundraiser. We're coming alongside them. We used to give the whole thing away for free, but that became a very unsustainable model. And so coming out of COVID, we thought, okay, we get a chance to reboot and redo this. And so we want the schools to have some skin in the game, and it's actually been to their own benefit because now the point of contact is more invested in being a part of the circle, and there's better lines of communication between the point of contact and the school administration and the Boys to Men office. So like if there's an assembly or if there's a field trip or something, we're getting those notifications to not send a team of men in that day. Because I can tell you there was a lot of days when we would show up and there were no boys to serve. And, guys are leaving their jobs to come there. We're sending our facilitators in and with a lack of communication but having some skin in the game, $5,000 and having that coming alongside. And for right now, in 40 schools, our budget is tapped out. We can't really add any more schools at our current budget, and but we've got vision to move forward. And I'll tell you, when Craig and I started this, and this is pretty cool because in 1998, a couple of years into it, I said, wouldn't it be cool to have a Boys to Men program in every middle school and high school in San Diego County? So that every boy in the county at least had access to some good men. And then wouldn't it be cool if because of that, we were responsible for closing a federal prison because we had cut off the school to prison pipeline by putting the assets and the resources into these young men where they're making healthier choices to be the good men they want to be.
Well, when you think about this, and programs like Boys to Men, like other unbelievable programs where there are so many positive metrics that say this is what happens when you do it. There's no refuting the success in this. Second Chance comes to mind, a frequent guest on our show that does great work on this. I scratch my head and say, how could you afford not to support this? Because look at what this is doing. At $70,000 a year to keep somebody incarcerated. Are you kidding me? Just do the math on that one, okay? And even more importantly, now they're contributing to society, okay? And now what they're doing is they're bringing people in to their fold on this. I think that's terrific on this. So what can groups like Mission Fed, Cloudcast Media, folks who are listening to this, do to support your efforts?
Well, you're supporting us right now by helping us get our mission and our message out. So thank you for that, Drew. But we're always looking for mentors, and really, I mean, if we're talking pie in the sky,
always.
Okay, well then, I know Mission Fed's got offices all over the county, and if there was an opportunity to get some of their employees into our circles, that would be like a 2-hour commitment a week to get to the group and to sit in the circle for an hour and get back to work. Man, that would be huge. And I've been talking to other companies about doing that because we really need, younger, more diverse mentors in our circles, and if that was a part of the value system of Mission Fed to provide, mentors in our group, that'd be awesome. Of course, you can always go to boystomen.org and make a donation. And, and then, we also have our open community groups at night, so if mentoring during the day is an option. We need men to support our evening circles. We run one in Spring Valley on Tuesdays and one up in Encinitas on Thursdays. So we're always looking for more mentors. We're looking for more funds, and that's what makes it work.
Yeah, I'm going to leave some of the final comments for Moses to say a few words, and then turn it over to Neville on this. But I will say this about Mission Fed. I say it quite often because I've been working with them for many, many years. Probably no surprise, since Neville got there. But Mission Fed does not do checkbook philanthropy. What they do is when they're in, they're in. They're in with their employees. They're in with their employees' siblings. They're in with everybody. And I'll let Neville chat about that in a few seconds. But Moses, what are your comments?
I have to say that I'm full of gratitude for being part of Poised to Men, for the mentors who sit with me, sit with us in our groups. So for Joe to call in that we need more mentors, absolutely. I'm grateful for the kind of diversity that we are seeking to meet the boys where they're at in their communities, and for younger to capture that this is a multi-generational mission of change. So in a way, calling in those who are showing up. I'm so grateful for those who show up at our events, show up in our groups, show up at on the mountain, as well as the open community groups. It's so easy to just show up.
I think that's great. Neville?
Gratitude to you for the work you're doing. Last year I read an article in Forbes that said empathy is the number one leadership skill. So as we reflect on this new year, and those listeners that are listening to this podcast, if you want to be empathetic and demonstrate leadership, look for opportunities like this to support, whether that's through volunteerism, through fiscal support, because you're helping change lives multi-generationally, creating a sense of mattering, reducing othering, and making a difference, a consequence. Earlier we talked about empowering. I would say you'd be actually ennobling a really important cause. So thank you for listening and giving that some serious consideration.
Appreciate that. Joe, shout out the website one more time.
boystomen.org, BOYSTOMEN.org.
Yeah, it's always an energetic conversation with you, Joe. Now bringing in Moses to this, and Neville's always just absolutely phenomenal pearls of wisdom. It's amazing. 30 minutes goes by in about 5 seconds on this. We know we'll have you back on in the not too distant future, bringing in more of the folks that have benefited from the mentorship. You know what I'd love to do? We haven't done this yet. Is maybe bring in one of the principals of the schools that has said, "Hey, this is great for our school, and here are the reasons why." Yeah. And maybe some of the longtime folks you've done. How's that sound?
That sounds wonderful.
Okay, yeah. We'll make that happen.
Right on.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, continuing to raise the bar for so many of us in San Diego County, for which we are grateful. We hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.